So the reason that I talk about harm and violence facing communities in terms of life shortening, or sometimes I talk about the distribution of life chances, is because I'm trying to get us to think in a material way on the ground about why some people's lives are affected by lack of health care, lack of adequate nutrition, being exposed to more pollutants because they live in a neighborhood that's been targeted for that kind of industry. Those kinds of sort of really material, harmful conditions that face us and that I think our communities are trying to resist and resolve. I'm trying to talk about that because I want us to move away from a conversation that's solely about whether we can get the law to say good things about us, whether we can say, the government has declared that it's not okay to beat up trans people, right? That we have the federal Matthew Shepard, James Byrd hate crimes law, and people see it as a big stance against violence. Of course, it won't prevent the violence that we're talking about, and all the actual material conditions shortening our lives are happening all the time, right, and are being exploited and increased by austerity measures and other moves from that same government that now declares that our deaths are a problem, right? So I think that part of what the book is trying to do is shift us away from asking what does the law say about us to what are legal structures doing to us and how do we actually resolve material conditions. We live in a country where 24 hours a day you can watch Law and Order on TV, right? There's a lot of propaganda around criminality that tells us that there's these dangerous, bad people, serial killers, serial rapists, they've got these criminal behaviors. In reality, our criminal justice system works very differently than that, right? The reality is that all of us break laws all the time, but only certain people in certain communities are heavily policed and pushed into prisons, usually for very low-level crimes related to poverty. So when we move away from thinking about individual criminals and bad people, which is kind of the fiction that justifies the system, and instead looking at these giant nets that are cast over primarily people of color and poor people communities to bring in more and more people into these private prison systems where, prison guards unions and prison corporations, are seeking to influence politicians to pass more criminalizing laws that will fill the beds and make more money. So it's a very different way of thinking about what criminality is and what crime is and what we would actually do to try to have a safer country.